Aloha. I'm jumping on here rather briefly to share some observations that I had with regard to human design, circuitry, and basic human interaction. So in human design, there are three types of circuits. There's the individual circuitry, which has a keynote of empowerment. There's the tribal circuitry, which has the keynote of the exchange or the bargain. There's the collective circuitry, which is about sharing, the impersonal sharing. And then there's the integration circuitry and centering circuit, which I'm not going to get into. To me, it's similar to the individual circuit, and there's a part of the integration circuitry that actually overlaps in a way with the individual circuitry. So I'm just going to say that it's like individual circuitry, even though it is definitely different for my purposes. And there are three basic ways that people interact with the world. And how we learn. When we interact, we learn in a specific way. And those are tied directly with the circuits in a sense. Now, all of them have a piece of each other, but to me, it makes most sense to say that each circuit exemplifies one of these three following that I'm about to explain. So the three modes of learning are I'm not really going to go into the three modes of learning. There's like kinesthetic and auditory and visual. That's fine. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm more referring to drives. Maybe drives is better than mode. And so the first drive is necessity. The second drive would be mimicry. And the third drive would be inspiration. And so let's start with the third one. The third one, which is inspiration, to me exemplifies the individual circuitry. Now, since the individual circuitry is super tied with empowerment, that kind of goes hand in hand. The idea with individual circuitry is that someone is being themselves or encouraging another person to be themselves, which inspires them to find something completely different, which is a blend between the left and the right, which is what the individual circuitry is. It's right there between the left and the right. It's always in between. And so this inspiration, going within, in between, it's a very individual type of thing. So then the next one I'm going to hop to would be one of the reasons that I find to be most common for a pressure or a drive to learn would be necessity. So necessity to me lines up the most with the tribal circuitry, because the tribal circuitry has to do with exchange. Well, I have this and you have that. I need what you have and you need what I have. So by this pressure of necessity, we're going to enter into this bargain, this exchange. So that's how I feel about the tribal circuitry. The tribal circuitry can be also exemplified with necessity, which is interesting because it also says, well, the tribe is very tied in with the spleen, which is about physical necessity, but we have emotional needs too. Can't discount the non-physical. So moving on, let's not worry about that last bit. The last one would be the collective circuitry, which has a keynote, as I said, of sharing. And so that goes with the final drive of learning, which would be, and this is almost more of a way of not necessarily, it's not necessarily a drive, but it is when you see it in little kids. It's not as much of a drive when people are older. It can be, it's more subtle, but that drive is going to be mimicry. Okay, so we have little kids that mimic their parents, mimic their siblings, mimic the animals, the trees, adults mimic each other, in particular to make fun of each other. Okay, so now there is this expansion into adulthood, which I'm glad I kind of stumbled upon. And so this kind of a sharing, and so this mimicry is sharing a specific way of doing something or behaving or anything. So it's very impersonal. I mean, obviously when a little kid is mimicking mom and not dad, there's a personal aspect to it, but that's not important. The importance is just to relate different ways of understanding those three aspects within human design to broader human behavioral context. So thank you. Those are the three. Again, in summary, we have individual circuitry, which is known for empowerment and is also about inspiration. We have tribal circuitry, which is known for the exchange or the bargain and is also about necessity. And then we have the collective circuitry, which is about sharing and is also about mimicry. Thanks for listening.